This week, I'm listening to a demo that was sent to me by Pelayo AF. Pelayo is a singer and lyricist from Spain who makes story-focused cabaret music. The song he sent me is titled Dissociation, and this is a song about being distracted online and social media in general. Pelayo was telling me that they feel that as an artist, it's important to have an online presence, but that this comes with many of its own issues. One of these issues, which is what this song looks to tackle, is the comment section and how oftentimes people in this shared virtual space can be annoying or entitled. In terms of feedback, Pelayo wrote in their submission that they're mainly looking for notes on the song's arrangement. They're not really sure what direction to take the song into at this stage, and there's a few sections that they feel like could be more musical. So what I'm going to do is listen to the song for the first time in its entirety, then offer just some initial thoughts based off of that first listen. Then afterwards, I'm going to go listen to the song a bunch more times on my own and make some notes. And I'll come back, share some ideas around arranging and how I think that those could be applied to this song potentially.
Sit it down, no time to think. Everything's on our hands, and we choose to drift. It's the beauty of mass destruction. Scrolling down our time away, conquering a new world.
Alright, just finished my first listen of Dissociation. Very interesting track. Very, very sad, but had some sort of cheeky moments that I thought were fun and sort of acted as a nice contrast to that sad vibe. I do see what Pelayo was saying about the song having a lot of potential in terms of what directions it could go in. Right now there's no drums. It could sound good without drums. It could sound good with drums. I'm not really sure what my opinion on that is just at this moment. But certainly in terms of the arrangement and structure of the song, a lot could be explored there potentially. So what I'm going to do is transition to listening to this a bit more, analyzing the current arrangement of the song, and coming back to see if I can have some suggestions here that might help Pelayo sort of push the direction of this to its next point. Before getting into the more in-depth listening sessions for this song, I decided to do some research on cabaret music, which is something I don't know anything about. But it being Pelayo's main art form felt like it would be important to be informed about. What I learned was cabaret is a form of theatrical entertainment featuring music, dance, recitation, and/or drama. It is a more lyric-focused art form, typically performed in smaller venues where audience members can eat and drink. The art form is not genre-specific, meaning that anything goes musically in the cabaret world. With that in mind, I added arrangement markers to Pelayo's track in Logic so I could follow the form while I listened to it and took my notes. After 3 or 4 listens, I felt a lot more familiar with the song, and I now have some thoughts on the arrangement and how it could potentially be improved. When I'm arranging, I'm trying to think how I can build up the song so that it supports the narrative and musical arc of the song. And so what I think this song sort of struggles with a bit is that because it's a demo and it's still being sort of ironed out, is that a lot of these sections have the same type of feel. It's always guitar and vocals, and there are some inclusions of some samples a little bit later of TikTok and some vocal layering, but for the most part, it's generally the same vibe. There isn't too much happening in terms of a switch up. A really easy way to improve your arrangements and just kind of a principle you can operate by is that there should be a change every sort of 4 to 8 bars. And where this song does succeed is that it follows this principle up until the second part of the verse. So the first 4 bars here is just guitar. There's a nice little intro. Then the vocals come in for the next 4 bars. And then the verse does continue instrumentationally. It doesn't change, but the melody does change a little bit. And so it still provides that musical change every 4 bars. So let's just listen to that really closely in action.
Sit it down, no time to think. Everything's on our heads, and we choose to drift. It's the beauty of mass destruction. Scrolling down a time away.
For me as a listener, the second half of this verse doesn't hit as strongly as when the verse first comes in because it doesn't feel like it really presents any new change to what I've heard to the song so far. There's no new instruments, there's no new melody. It just feels kind of the same. And I feel like this is really difficult to deal with at songs that are these slower tempos because when you're listening to a slow song, there's a lot of room for time to pass between bars. And so 8 bars in a slow song is a lot more time to listen to than 8 bars in a fast song, which is why, it having some variance can really help add to the momentum of the song. So I think your first option here would be cutting this in half. I think that would immediately chop down on the length of the song. But I do like that this first verse is double the length of the second verse. And the reason I like that is because from an arrangement perspective, it adds this sort of speed to it where we have to listen to all of this to get to this first chorus. There's sort of some work that's required as the listener. And then by the time we get to this next verse, we're sort of expecting to go through that process again. But then the second chorus hits faster and presents change musically that we haven't heard. Again, just sort of sticking to that principle that things just need to feel like they're moving forward or evolving somehow in one way or another. If it's adding things or making sections shorter or making sections longer, just you're looking for things that add contrast. And so I do like the contrast between the length of these sections. So I wouldn't be a fan of a cut. The song is really short on instrumentation. There's only really guitar and vocals and some vocal layers and some samples from TikTok in this section here. So I think that if you were looking to build it up, the easiest way would be to start having those instruments come into the song slowly, one by one, accumulated into some sort of, section, most likely the chorus or this section afterwards, where everything kind of comes together. And then what you'll have is this new verse section that will have these instruments, these parts that weren't as present in this first section. And then those will be present for your chorus. And you could experiment with something for the outro. And I think this chorus, refrain, outro section here where he just repeats the hook and there's kind of a neat little environment sort of effect on the guitar. I think that's fine. And that could probably stay more or less the way it is. This isn't personally the way that I usually write drums, but if you're more of a lyricist slash singer, then this might be something that's useful for you if you're also a Logic Pro user, which I know that Pelayo is. So you can click Add Track and go to Session Player and select Drummer. And the drummer feature gives you the option to change the style or the complexity and the intensity, as well as the instruments and how many fills and all that type of stuff there are. And so if we just drop it into a section here really quickly, it'll sound a little bit funny, but you'll just hear how it quickly...
Don't mind me. I'm just getting some thoughts.
It quickly gives us something to work with. You know, we can say, oh, you know, I feel like the funk feel is not the right one, so let's try this pop brush and see how this sounds.
Don't mind me. I'm just getting some thoughts. It's been a long...
And that's just a good way to get an idea for the drums. I think it's still better to get a drummer or make your own drum sounds, just find a way to create the sounds yourself. But if you're just in a writing slash arranging phase, then this is a really excellent tool for just getting some drum sound ideas and figuring out how you could potentially structure them to work with the rest of the song. All right, so here is a drum part that I threw together using the drummer session option in Logic, and we'll just do a quick tour of what I added. So before, when we were going into this section, it sounded a little bit like this.
Scrolling down a time away.
It's not bad. What I added here was just some ride sounds.
Scrolling down a time away.
Really subtle, but just adds a little bit of rhythm to it. Now all of a sudden there's some pacing. Before, everything is loose. The vocals and guitar have this very washy, flowy sort of feel to them, but the ride introduces some, you know, this is the time feel, and again adds just a bit of drive to it. And so then as it's sort of picking up, I just updated the complexity so that it includes some kick in here and gets a little bit more complex as it goes into this next section.
Of dissociation.
And I did the same thing for the chorus.
The morning alarm, remembering birthdays, replying your text, just watching old movies, goodbye.
And then I have a little break here at the end of the hook as it goes into this Tik Tok section, and that's where I have the full beat drop in.
Over routines every day, the feels that I got there restored once. Don't mind me. I'm just getting some thoughts.
And so now it feels like the song has a bit more motion, because instead of just being in this floaty guitar vocal space, there's now some groundedness to it. And is it the most amazing sounding drum beat? No, but if you're just trying to figure out what kind of beat to give your song or develop your arrangement so that when you hand it off to somebody who is going to develop your song further and you can give them a better idea of what direction you want to take it in, then it's a really useful tool for that sort of work. So in regards to this song specifically, something Pelayo asked about was this Tik Tok section and how to make it a bit more musical. So I'm going to listen to it here with the drum track I added on here and just listen to the full thing and kind of get a vibe for it.
Don't mind me. I'm just getting some thoughts. It's been a lot of things in my head lately.
Just letting everyone in our strip club use the system.
So for me, when I'm listening to that, it does feel a little bit long. It sort of suffers from the thing we were talking about earlier, where there's not really a lot of change every sort of 4 to 8 bars. It is a lot of just kind of the same. I do really enjoy the sort of vibe it establishes, and the mix of the guitars with the drums sounds nice with the samples. And I don't know. I think it kind of it adds as a nice almost kind of breather section from the lyrics. You know, the lyrics happen and then there's this nice section where it's just the vibe. I've sort of two thoughts on where this could go. My first would be cutting it a little bit shorter, and this is a section where I think that wouldn't be inappropriate, because I don't know how much adding the second half is adding to the whole song overall. It feels like it's just making the song feel unnecessarily long. And it's a slower song, so we want to give it some better pacing. So that's my first idea. The second idea would be keeping it the same length and trying to make it more of a jam type section. This, it could only really be accomplished by working with some live musicians. You can try simulating this in MIDI, but it's just going to be more difficult. But I really just imagine that if you had a drummer and a guitar player and a bass player playing this section, and you instructed them to sort of be loose with it, you know, not overly adventurous and complicated. Just, we're trying to establish a nice vibe. Maybe the bass line changes up here and there. It's maybe a little bit more melodic than it is in the verse and chorus sections. The guitar can kind of free up. If you can add additional guitar parts, I think those could layer in really nicely, because you could have your main guitar part and just little guitar fills here and there. Just having fun with it. Instead of using one guitar, try adding a second one, try adding a third one. You can totally get carried away with it. You want to use good taste when you're doing this. But for me, this feels like a section that just needs to come alive. And I think that human musicians could probably do that. Otherwise, I think your best bet would be shortening it. Okay, so here I quickly cut it up in the way I'm imagining it could sound if it was a bit shorter. So we'll listen to it from where the Tik Tok section starts, and you can hear how just cutting this section in half can be an effective arranging move itself.
Don't mind me. I'm just getting some thoughts up. It's been a lot of things in my head lately.
Just letting everyone in our strip feel beauty system.
Comes away.
It still needs something else. It needs some layering. I really hear some nice bass lines in there, playing some contrast to the guitar lines. I think having the interplay of those instruments going off each other is just going to help alive in that whole section. In conclusion, if you're working on a demo and you're starting to look at the arrangement and you're trying to figure out how you can improve that arrangement, a really good strategy is to simply check if there's something interesting happening musically every 4 to 8 bars. This could be moving to a new section, or an instrument coming in, or an instrument dropping out. Basically anything that is just a little bit different and signifies that the song is progressing forward in one way or another. As we saw with this song, sometimes just identifying what's missing from the song and quickly adding in a version of that thing that's missing is enough to spark new ideas. So here we knew that there was no drums and that we wanted some sort of drum pattern, but we didn't know what style we wanted to do. So we just threw in a funk drum. That wasn't the best. We switched to a pop drum. That sounded a little bit better. And then I was able to work backwards and sort of create an arrangement that made it so that drum pattern built. And now when I listen to the song, I start hearing ideas for bass lines and guitar lines. There's more ideas popping out. And all that is just to recap that adding in the missing thing can sometimes show you what the other missing things are. It just kind of clears up the picture a little bit in terms of where the arrangement needs to go. Lastly, sometimes a good cut is all we need. We saw with the TikTok section that when we were listening to it, it just felt a little bit long. Using our 4-bar, 8-bar formula to assess the arrangement, we saw that after 8 bars, nothing really happened that was super different between the first part of that section and the verse. So it felt appropriate just to try getting rid of it. And in my opinion, it feels like it gives the song just a bit more speed in terms of how quickly we're moving through the sections. And that speed comes at an appropriate time where the energy levels are rising and it feels like the song has a bit more intentionality and direction just from cutting 8 bars out of the song. That's all I got for this week. Pelayo, thanks so much for sending this song to me. I had a really good time listening to it and analyzing it, and I hope the information I shared in this video was helpful for you and anybody else watching the video. If you want to check out more of Pelayo AF's work, I've included links to his Instagram, YouTube page, and Substack in the description of this video. And then if you have a demo, half-finished song, or release song that you want reviewed or are looking to get some thoughts or feedback on, I also have a link to a submission form in the description of this video you can use to share your song with me so that it can be potentially featured in a future episode of Feedback Loop. Thanks so much for watching, and tune in next week to see what song I was sent to listen to next.